we tend to process things with much more intellect than the average person, a little bit less emotion than the average person, but not as much as we like to pretend. We still have feelings, but way less intuition. We are not picking up on social cues. I say we. This is something I've had to learn. Someone says something like, this is a common one. Cost of healthcare is out of control. During COVID, I was so worried I was going to get sick, not just because I'd get sick, but if I ended up in the ER and had a bill, it could set our family back for years. I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't get it. Why should healthcare be so expensive in this country? It seems like these other countries are so wealthy, they got all this money and their healthcare is free. We're supposed to be the wealthiest country on earth. Why are we paying anything for healthcare? It doesn't make sense. It seems like healthcare should be a human right. Why should I have to pay this? What did we hear? Most people, the first thing they heard was, I'm worried. I'm scared. I'm looking for a solution to healthcare. Now, we have the solution to healthcare, but what did we hear? Healthcare is a human right. Our country's rich. Why shouldn't it be free? And so we walk up fully confident that we are about to win this argument. We go, you moron. A right? Do you even know what a right is? Someone here has not read about natural rights. Oh, goodness. Let me explain to you about natural rights. I don't even know if I have time. By the time I finish explaining negative rights to you, I'm not even sure if I'll have time to explain the concept of, how rich we are. We're actually tens of trillions of dollars in debt. I don't know if you knew that. And we walk away and we won as many as 50 internet argument points. We also created an enemy. We now have an enemy because that person said, I'm scared on like an existential level about getting sick. I'm scared that getting sick will destroy my household's finances. And some schmuck showed up and wanted to argue with me about things I don't even understand. What if instead we showed up and said, you're right, the cost of healthcare is completely out of control. We spend more money. Our government spends more money per patient on healthcare than almost every other country on earth, and then we spend nearly 3 times as much out of pocket. It's absurd. And if you look at what got us here, you have Republicans and Democrats who have created a system that maximizes profit for a handful of politically connected groups. And here's how we can fix it. And you can go into that. Or you could even relate how healthcare has affected you. Because you're actually, contrary to popular belief, you're actually a human being too. And you have health issues too. And you've actually gone to the doctor too. And some of you may have issues with insurance or ability to afford healthcare as well. So you could relate to them, that you have that as well. And then explain what the problem is. We already have the solution. We literally just have to remind people that we're people too. And that we understand their problems. Is it going to convince everyone? No, but they'll at least walk away saying that person cared about me. Yeah. And every single one of us is primarily operating out of our lizard brain. We like to pretend we're not, that we're just thinking our way through everything, but we're not. We're primarily feeling and intuiting our way through life. They just acknowledge it. They are consciously feeling and intuiting their way through life. So meet them where they are. Show them that you care. Show them that this affects you too. Then explain the problem. Then explain the solution. It works. Take at least a little bit of time every day to continue arguing. Because, you have to still have that. I'm not trying to completely cold turkey you, but just a few minutes aside to argue and then go back to relate with people. Any other questions?
So, not to prove your point, but I feel compelled to point out that Spock was probably really a socialist, just so you know. But,
oh my God. The middle trick was about how real communism would work.
But I have a real question about tactics. So when I was a kid, one of the liberating moments for me was to be able to use humor to mock what were considered sacred political figures.
Okay.
And I feel, maybe I'm wrong, that like one of Donald Trump's big winners for him as a tactic was his ability to mock the system, so to speak. I'm not like, this is a tactical question, right? But that also turns some people away. You're like, was so irreverent about, what maybe patriarchal people thinking this is really irreverent on both sides to see this. My question to you is, you to talk about how we can win people over. I really appreciate this. I've never thought of the way you put it. Yeah. So my question is, do you see humor, forgive the expression, but shit posting, so to speak, on social media? Do you actually see that? and this is a genuine question because I sometimes think in my own life, like if I post this, it's so funny and it makes a point and I feel compelled.
Yeah.
Like, but I know it's gonna piss some people off. So like, I don't know, in general, I'm not putting a specific case. Do you feel like that humor and mockery on social media helps the movement, or do you feel like on net, or yeah, well, what's your opinion?
I'm Bazooka Jew. Yes, I strongly. I agree with Vermin Supreme. That's why Barry didn't like it. So just to answer your question, sometimes it doesn't work. Humor. Everyone's going to be reached different ways. Humor is definite. Satire is absolutely one of those ways. I would say in general, if you were going to engage in political satire, make sure you're punching up.
Yeah.
It's very, very easy to punch down or punch sideways, wherever that works. But if you're gonna deride people, make sure your targets are like high up, that you're going for people that are actually in these so-called positions of authority, because you can very, very quickly end up alienating the person that you were trying to make your point with. But I know I'm a huge fan of humor. I'm definitely more on the edgier posting. I have to be careful what I do because I understand I'm now representing something a lot bigger than just me or even just my little thing that I'm doing, my little group or whatever. And my group isn't little anymore. So I have to kind of moderate. Also, my wife gets mad at me when I go a little too far.
I want to correct you. You're not Bazooka Jew. You're Tash's husband.
Okay.
Yeah, but she's right. She's not wrong.
Mom things can be true, sweet.
So, by the way, when you are cyberbullying the ATF, you are punching down. So, thank you.
That's a fair point. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
This is sort of adjacent to what we're talking about. A lot of people, the Libertarian Party is like a magnet. People come to the party from the Democrats, from the Republicans, and obviously I'm from Washington where more Democrats came, and this is Utah where more Republicans come.
Yeah.
But a lot of people come to the party and then they pass through, and then they go into the realm of, you know, the Spooner verse of why vote, this pointless, or, you know, why get involved, why do anything. And so I'm just wondering how we can, what made you stick around with that, you know, with us and be like, hey, let's get involved, let's do this, instead of being like, I'm gonna sit in my room and I'm just gonna, you know, focus on you know, cyberbullying others.
Yeah,
or whatever.
There is a place for cyberbullying the government too. 'Cause
Agreed.
I literally saw a shirt that says that. But
I agree.
But no, it's a good question because we have a lot of I guess burnout, right? Where people either go, this isn't for me. I don't think this is ever going to do anything. Sometimes they go back to the Republicans or Democrats and they go, yeah, I'm trying to make it more libertarian, and they may have some success, but for the most part, they just realize they felt. Here's the problem, Knut. A lot is asked of them on rare occasions, and there's rarely a win. And so it's this weird, like, okay, we're gonna not really ask much of you for like a year or so at a time, but then there's all this stuff that we gotta do, and you gotta do, we really need your help. And you know, we got 3%, we got 2%, we got 5%, we got 1%, we didn't win. We have to do that. You asked how I stick around. I created something that gives me wins in the meantime and gives other people wins that they can have in the meantime. And it was not, and it never is, to draw people away from the party. It is adjacent to and completely outside of electoral politics. And so when I've had people that will say, I'm so done with the Libertarian Party, I want to join you. And I go, listen, whatever your situation is with the Libertarian Party, we'd love to have you with us because A, we're a 501 nonprofit. We're not competing with or against any political party, but also because I want you, whatever party or other efforts you're involved in, I want the work you do with You Are the Power to give you energy and strength and will to then do those other things that are going to have much longer periods of time in between wins. So I think the easiest answer is, I think a lot of people, I mean, I'm a Spooner guy, okay? I'm a no authority, no treason guy, okay?
Mhm.
But I also recognize that this has a place. It's not the only thing. It's not even necessarily the biggest thing, but electoral politics and a system that's governed by electoral politics, it is a means of using our vote, which is proxy violence, for defensive violence. We are using our proxy violence in defense. So there is a place for it. But if this were the only thing that I were doing, I would become incredibly hopeless very quickly. And that's not an indictment of this affiliate or any other affiliate or the party itself. It is the reality of third-party politics and a system that's governed by first past the post. Our wins are going to be few and far between. What I am giving us, and what I encourage you to do, if you don't want to do it with me, you don't like the cut of my jib, you'd rather do it yourself. Create something that has smaller asks more often and incremental wins. The case we're working on with the families in Georgia, that's going to take a long time before we have our big victory. But in the meantime, we can get children put back in families' homes. We can get parents reunified. We can get judges to back off and allow medical evidence. These are all wins. We didn't win the whole thing. We may never win the whole thing, but we'll have all these other wins, and it gets people energized and it gets them feeling like they're behind something that actually is going to succeed. So as a party, that's a tough one to do. Our wins are usually things like ballot access and getting a candidate on the ballot. And for some of us, that's enough because we know that's the fight that we have. But for others, it's like, oh, you mean we didn't take over the world and leave everyone alone? And they need something else. And so what I'm trying to provide is something that allows them to have those incremental wins, to steel them for the long winters ahead of electoral politics. So one other person out there.
I just had a comment to add on to Justin's question about mocking. Me and Brad was talking about this at lunch. Like, we are ruled by the political class is filled with such, mediocre and unimpressive people.
Yeah.
I thought your debate with David Hawk kind of showed that. I mean, he's not quite part of the ruling class per se, but just I think mockery is really important to point out sort of how mediocre they are. Well, one of the things that makes me laugh is whenever Tucker Carlson talks about neocons, he'll always just add in some throwaway line that he's like, and he said something to the effect of like, and they all have very creepy personal lives. Like he'll just sort of throw this little kind of dig in at them, making fun of just kind of the losers that they are, and just I think that is I think humor is a really powerful tool for that, just to show like I think sometimes we're afraid of the people in charge. We think they're big, bad, powerful, and then the more you look at it, the more you realize like these are like mediocrities.
Yeah, these are people that couldn't succeed doing anything else, so they do this instead. Right. They're actually like some of the lowest performing people amongst us.
Right.
But they figured out this grift. And that helps drive home the whole concept of human respect. Not only would we never tolerate these people doing this type of thing outside of their capacity as a government official, they don't have the stones to do it.
Yeah.
They don't have the wherewithal to do it. They literally have to hijack this concept of presumed authority and stand behind this podium with this gavel. This is actually a legitimate gavel because it's a private organization that's wielding it. But if this were government, this gavel would be fairy tale authority. It would be me saying, because we granted ourselves this authority, read this piece of paper. It was signed by people that came before us that said that we grant ourselves this authority. And so I pledged to that piece of paper that said that we have this authority. And so you magically have to agree with me. And so here's what I'm going to bestow upon you at your expense. That's the only way they'd be able to get anything accomplished. These are not successful people. These are not regarded people. These are people who actually look at successful people with a tremendous envy and a tremendous feeling of entitlement to the fruits of their labor. So yes, we should absolutely be deriding them. My derision is some people deride them a lot more angrily or viscerally than I do. I tend to do the just straight up laughing at them approach,
Sure. Yeah.
As opposed to the screaming. But again, it takes all kinds. But no, I do think that is useful, and it also drives home the underlying thing. It's sort of like with the Wizard of Oz. It's like, the guy behind the curtain was not an impressive person. Right? Like, these are not impressive people. These are people that have found this use that literally just robs from everyone else. Otherwise, they'd be like working at like some menial job, if anything.